today's workout tip. Depending on what kind of steel or metal sword you use, make sure that you're safe around it. There are many times when people try to use a Shihan when they shouldn't, and there are many times when people use an Iaito when they don't need to. As a general rule, your first maybe 20 or 30,000 strokes shouldn't be done with a Shihan. Too much fear of the blade. It's sort of like learning how to shoot your first firearm, and they give you a 50 caliber weapon. It's just a little difficult. Start with paintball and work your way up. This sword here in particular is a real classic blade. It's about 1,280 grams and it cuts fairly well. This is what you know is a Shihan. Today, we're going to work on how to draw the sword through your numbers A, Ya, and Ya Top this way. As I said earlier, when we work in the online curriculum, you'll find out that it's broken down a little bit slower so you can understand your Kihon better. Later, when your Kihon set in and you got all the basic building blocks of how to create and keep a good technique, then later you can speed it up because it'll be easier for you to do. And of course, we know all this. We've practiced this before for most of us. And let me speed it up just a little bit more now. Hip, yaw. And bring it up back this way just a little bit more. Let me speed it up just again so we start getting sort of a true speed on it. And hip, yup. Now at the very beginning, it'll be difficult when you draw a Shihan because you're worried about your fingers getting cut off. Note that when you use a metal steel sword, always oil it about every 10, 15, 20 strokes, depending on the viscosity of the oil, which is very important. As a general rule, anything faster than this speed is not practical for the average student. And the reason why I say this is, it is too hard on the arms and joints. That's why there are a lot of sword people out there, as with other martial artists, who have bad hips, bad knees, they've pulled this, they've torn that. Same thing happens with the sword. But if you remember to keep your elbows in, and make sure that you work on the techniques a little slower, that won't happen until your body's ready for it. Now, when we start pulling the sword a little faster on what you call a double tap speed, it changes the whole arena because you can't keep all the technique as full as it could. For example, if I come over here and I cut up this way here, I'm not going to bring it all the way over to the top of my head to come down and make a full cut, which is really good for training. Remember, this is a military kata. Kata 1, ippon mai no teki, which means the enemy in front, and he's a sword person too, or military at a minimum, and he's trying to kill you, and you're going up like this. Nice, good form. I missed him there. Pose up here. Okay, really nice, and cuts down that way. But in real life, it's a little bit more like this, where the shot would come in, you're walking into it, because this is a walking art. You're walking into it, cut here, and cut back down like this a little faster. What's happening is that you use the target in relation to the sword. Before, you're cutting through the air, and you're cutting these big, huge, full cuts, which looks nice, and it has good, proper, what we say, posture, but your target is ahead of you, basically my eye level. So anything that's being cut up here or down here might be like I'm punching like too far around like this when I should be punching a lot closer if I were in an altercation. So take that in consideration. So now, when you start setting up the sword and you cut in, and after you've gained your Kihon, where it looks good, feels good, then you can speed it up like this. And, yup.